So, I feel selfish here. These are three of my most favorite people, and I'm grateful that they're here. I want to start with President Osmani. And a lot of you who live in New York know this, but the largest number of Albanians and Kosovars in the world outside their native land are in New York. I have two Osmanis on my street. And my life has been sort of connected to theirs since I was president. And I'm very, very proud of you and your people. You were so young when you were elected, and you have managed to accelerate economic growth, and I think, excuse me, increase your security. But the theme of this conference is what's next, and you're a walking embodiment of good news. If you do the right thing and you give people a chance to have their lives and make the most of their lives, most people are good people and they will make the most of it. The Kosovars certainly have. So, tell us what's next.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon, everyone. So good to be back at CGI and in this incredible panel. That is not an easy question for a politician, because when we say something, then we have to keep our promises. At least we're the kinds that keep their promises. However, as you rightly pointed out, Mr. President, Kosovo is such an amazing success story. But it's not ours alone, it's yours too, and it's the success story of so many allies and friends around the world. As I oftentimes mention, and I think it's worth mentioning nowadays when the world is facing so many horrible wars and conflicts, and so many people are suffering, losing their lives, and so much destruction, that the case of Kosovo has shown, and it's such a great embodiment of what freedom-loving nations around the world can achieve when they don't turn a blind eye. They don't turn a blind eye on a people oppressed that is simply trying to live their God-given right to be free, to live in freedom, and to have their basic human rights respected. And I grew up, like everyone else in my generation, and all the kids of Kosovo, initially in an apartheid-like regime that escalated to a genocidal war because of the butcher of the Balkans at that time, Slobodan Milosevic. And to grow up as a child of war, of course, is the most horrendous thing to anyone. However, when you experience something like that, and for the people of Kosovo to experience something like that, it has meant that after the war, after we became free because of our liberation struggle and your support, Mr. President, and the support of the American people and American leadership, we never, ever take our freedom for granted. Never. So I believe the fundamental has been to not take our freedoms for granted. And today, a little over 2 decades after we became free, and less than 2 decades after we became independent, Kosovo, according to the latest reports, is the #1 safest country in Europe. #1 safest. We're #3 in the world, according to Gallup International Rule of Law and Index, #1 in Europe, and the 3rd in the world in terms of safety and security. And safety and security, and focusing so much on that, has also brought economic growth. It has brought FDI, it has brought opportunities within the country. It has brought interest, but at the same time, it has positioned Kosovo as a reliable ally and partner to other countries in the world, because now we give back. Now we partner with countries, with the United States and other countries in Europe and elsewhere in other continents to help those in need. Our soldiers serve shoulder to shoulder with US soldiers in peacekeeping missions around the world. We try to help, we try to share our experience. Our survivors of sexual violence during the war are now traveling the world to support survivors in Ukraine, in Sudan, in the Middle East, in other countries. So we're trying to give back while at the same time being very much aware that, again, freedom, even today, 26 years after the war, should not be taken for granted, because look at Ukraine. For 400 years they had to undergo occupation after occupation, and now they need to regain their freedom once again. So we want to make sure, and that takes me to what's next. Our biggest bet is on our people. That has always been Kosovo's greatest strength. We have the youngest population in Europe, tech-savvy, multilingual, brilliant. They have been taking Kosovo forward. We're the country with the highest IT competitiveness rate, and that is what is driving our economy, and I think that's going to continue to be the driving force behind our economy. But the challenge, Mr. President, as you know too well, is maintaining peace, not just achieving it, maintaining it. We still have a threat in our northern border because Russia's craziness goes well beyond the territories around it and the countries around it. They constantly want to threat different parts of Europe, including the Western Balkans. And this triangle of evil that I call, with Russia, China, and Iran, trying to push forward their malign influence, whether through military, through economy, or through crazy ideology, are trying to undo everything that we've achieved together. We need to make sure that the same way that we've stopped them so far, we'll continue to stop them from now on. So maintaining peace is a precondition to our continued success. When you have peace, there's a chance for you to thrive. There's a chance for you to succeed, whether in economy, in education, in health, internationally, everywhere. But when you don't have that, there's simply a lost chance for success for any country, every society elsewhere. And my final point, another reason why Kosovo has been a success story, it's women. Women have been at the forefront. At the forefront of our peaceful resistance initially, then our armed resistance, our armed struggle, and then ultimately in the peacemaking and the peacekeeping, as well as the state-building process, where women are included and are part of the decision-making table. Peace always comes faster and it lasts longer. And that has been the story of Kosovo.
Thank you. You know, I'm highly prejudiced in this matter because of my early involvement with them, but it is true that I have two Kosovo families on the street where Hillary and I live, and our county, I think, has the highest percentage of Albanians from Albania proper and from Kosovo of any state in America. So I'm always getting the latest news. But the thing I want all of you to know is there's something wrong when people have to leave their homeland to have normal lives. And in our little town with 3,400 people, all the last 4 restaurants have belonged to Albanians. And we have a taco place where most of the employees are Mexicans or Guatemalans. But the owner is a Kosovo Albanian. But here's the interesting thing. The manager, the woman who gives me a beer every time I walk in, is a Serb.
Wow.
And when I was in there after we just opened the 2 latest restaurants, the woman asked me if I'd been to the new restaurants. I said, yeah, I've been to the one down the street, but I haven't been up the hill yet. And she said,
Not very clear.
Not clear.
an Orthodox Christian Serbian said, well, you know,
We need to have some.
this restaurant up the hill belongs to a Muslim, and he is a wonderful man, and you should go. Now, why do we all have to leave home to learn those lessons? And how can we make it safe at home? So I want to thank you. Now, Dr. Tedros and I have been friends for many years because we met when he was the health minister in Ethiopia, and our foundation went there to set up an AIDS program and to help them to build out a health system that was quite good in Addis Ababa but didn't have enough presence in the massive number of rural communities they had. And I thought then and said then, I probably got him in trouble. I said, I would have been proud if as president, he had been the Secretary of Health and Human Services in America. Today, he'd have a hard time getting the job because he believes in vaccines. But this man has been through all the challenges globally, plus he had family in Tigray with all the problems that had happened within Ethiopia. He's had to live through that, keep running the World Health Organization, and watch others try to take it down. So, where are we now with global health? What can you still do? What do you need help doing? What can this group do to help?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, President Clinton. Thank you for reminding me the days when you supported me actually through CHAI when I was Minister of Health. The impact of your intervention still is felt, so thank you. Currently, of course, we're passing through a very difficult situation. Difficult times. Some colleagues call it interesting times to make it a bit positive. As some of you may know, the US has withdrawn from WHO. And I was actually in Tanzania when I heard the news, helping Tanzania to fight the Marburg outbreak. Marburg is like Ebola's cousin. And I read the executive order and the 4 reasons put there. The 4 reasons for the withdrawal actually are 4 good reasons to stay in WHO for the US. And I was surprised, and still we haven't had any direct discussion. Otherwise, if these are the reasons, I think it's actually good reasons to stay than leave. But that action is lose-lose for the US. So globally, the question you asked, US's withdrawal makes the US unsafe and makes the world unsafe as well. It's a lose-lose. Of course, even after withdrawal, the US asks us for information on outbreak, on disease surveillance. We share. We don't even ask any question, because at the end of the day, we want the safety of the American people, because that's our agenda, nothing else. But since then, we're moving forward. I have already proposed to the member states a revised budget, significantly lower, which removes the US contribution completely. And based on the new budget envelope, we have already designed a new structure. We have completed prioritization. And we shaped up the organization, starting from the top leadership, reducing the size of the senior leadership by half, And the prioritization has already been completed and reached already at the front line. And we're, as we speak, giving notifications actually to, which really pains me, because as the whole world knows, these are the same staff, WHO staff, who have been working during COVID pandemic day and night under serious pressure. They don't deserve dismissal. That's what pains me now, because it's not right. But of course, we have done all the process by following 3 principles: transparency, fairness, and humanity. And in a way that maintains the core mandate of the organization. But although the whole process is painful, because sending out my colleagues is painful, on the other hand, we see opportunity in this crisis. We see opportunity to strengthen the organization. We see opportunity to focus the organization on its core mandate, but learn to work through others, and even learn, even if we are less than what we used to be, with less to do more. And it's possible. And it's an opportunity as well to make the organization independent, because we should avoid in the future similar shocks. And the main reason, or the main challenge or risk for WHO is, which we have analyzed in 2017 and 2018, and we have been working to address that, dependency on few traditional donors is the main cause. And whenever the major donor withdraws, a shock like this happens. But not only that, with big amount of money coming from one donor, you can compromise your independence as well. So for the future, what we're trying to do is the roadmap that we have prepared, using this as opportunity to make the organization shock-proof, to prevent shocks like this in the future by broadening the donor base, and we're doing that, and also make it independent. When the donor base is broadened, we can absorb shocks, but at the same time we can be independent. And our member states, when we proposed this is before even this crisis happened, in 2022, they approved an increase of membership fee by 50%. And that's actually helping us during this crisis to minimize the impact. If it wasn't for this finance reform, we would have laid off more than double of the staff we're laying off now. So the reform is working, and we're looking at it as opportunity, so we're moving forward. So there is the pain, but there is the opportunity. And I am confident that we can make the organization better. But we're not really worried about WHO only. But of course the WHO one is there. It's less of a problem than the impact of the US funding cuts or other countries on developing world. Especially, the services which have been affected now, HIV, TB, malaria, and other programs. Even, in those countries, I think lives are being lost now because of the funding cuts. So the solution we are now agreeing, which I hope I'm encouraged that the countries are taking it seriously, is countries should move into self-reliance and mobilize domestic resources and see this as opportunity to ensure that. And we're helping them with mobilizing domestic resources. For instance, alcohol and tobacco taxes would be the immediate, and for the long term also insurance systems, because there are domestic resources that can help with this. And for me as an African, of course, not only Africa as a developing countries, but as an African, I think Africa doesn't need charity. It's fair terms, solidarity and cooperation. And I'm glad to see that in many meetings, even during this ANGA, many leaders saying the same thing and taking the steps to move forward. So both for WHO and for the countries affected, I think this is impacting, and we're even losing lives, but let's see it as an opportunity, and let's have a strategic solution that can prevent future similar challenges from happening. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you.
By the way, there's one thing I want to stress, sorry again. There is one thing I want to stress. US and any government have the right to use its money the way it wants. The only thing from WHO we asked at the time was the US could have given some exit strategy. Instead of a sudden cut, maybe 6 months or 1 year. That would have addressed the problems we're facing now and could have saved the lives that we have lost. So the country has every right to use its money the way it wants, but it should not have been sudden, and there should have been a kind of transition. But for me, I think the answer is self-reliance, and we can mobilize domestic resources. And those donors who can support can focus on capacity building. So the countries should not get a fish, but should learn how to fish from the donors who can support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I first met Chef Jose Andres more than 25 years ago, when I was still president back in the dark ages. I just had a little while to go, and he was living in Washington, D.C., and he came to help do a community feeding around Thanksgiving. And Hillary and I went out to the site and served food. And I met this guy who was an immigrant from Spain. And I was totally blown away. I mean, most people who came to America trying to make their way didn't think about what they could do in a charitable role to help other people who needed help. He did. And I watched him for years. And after I got out of the White House, we started working together all over the world just by accident because of the work I did in places where he was active. And I have been amazed to see the speed with which he has built a system that can serve huge numbers of people in distressed areas. And when I was worried about the COVID epidemic, World Central Kitchen put a food distribution operation in the parking lot at my library in Arkansas, because we had a lot of low-income people who needed the food, and he trusted us to deliver the food beyond the site for the people who couldn't get there. And so we wound up, between the two of us, probably serving almost 1 million meals in just that one spot. And I have watched this guy pull rabbit out of the hat over and over and over again. And God knows we need a lot of rabbits pulled out of a lot of hats today. So now what are we going to do, friends? How are we going to keep going? How can we do more? How can we meet the needs?
How to keep going? I think, we're living in a moment that the clock is at 0, so let's see if I do this quick. That at times you feel like you don't want to wake up in the morning. Because when you see all the great things, it's great, but when you see all the things that are not so great, I don't know if you have that feeling that brings you down a little bit. And now is not the time to let the situation anywhere in the world to bring us down. If anything, this is what needs to motivate us to be all next to each other to say, there is not going to be a problem we cannot solve if we work together with boots on the ground. So how I do it, Mr. President? You said it. I saw you doing it when you were visiting DC Central Kitchen 25 years ago when we met with action. World Central Kitchen is not a fighting hunger organization. It's an emergency food relief organization. And we specialize in showing up quick and fast and solving the food issues immediately. I just came back from visiting my team in Gaza. Here at CGI, we already committed $100 million that is going to help us do 1 million meals a day, 1 million meals a day over the next year. We have 60 community kitchens. We have 2 World Central Kitchen major kitchens. Next week, we're opening 2 more. This week, today, we reached 427,000 meals. By the end of next month, we will be able to be reaching at very least 600,000. And before the end of the year, we are reaching 1 million meals. This is what makes us keep going. The people of Gaza don't want our pity, they want our respect. World Central Kitchen doesn't feed anybody. It's the thousands of Palestinians working with us feeding Palestinians. That's the way to do it, the only way to do it. But at the same time, what is good for you must be good for me. In the first day, we were in Israel. Why? Because it was the right thing to do, because the people of Israel needed our aid. The next day, we were in Gaza. Why? Because the people of Gaza needed our aid. What is good for you must be good for me. When they ask me, why are you in Israel? Are you pro-Israeli? I say, yes. Why are you in Gaza? Are you pro-Palestinian? I say, yes. The only way we're going to be solving the problems is if we are pro-Israel and pro-Gaza. What is good for you must be good for me. Respect should be given and should be received. That's the only way to do it. So that's what we're doing in Gaza. We're doing water. We partner with UN. We feed a lot of hospitals. I'm with a doctor called Dr. Hassan. My new hero is 6,500 orphans. We are finishing next week the first home and a school for 1,600. And in the next 60 days, we'll have the 3 orphanages for 6,500 children finished. This is not just giving a speech, we will do it. We are already building it and giving home to those orphans in the middle of a war inside Gaza. This is what keeps people motivated. When you deliver the promises you make. Very quickly, we are in Ukraine. We are still in Ukraine. We were in Ukraine day 1. We were in Bucha day 1. We were in Kherson day 1. We are now in the front lines mainly feeding especially elderly, that they are too elderly to move. So we make sure we are delivering around 300,000 meals a day to people that they are too old to go anywhere anymore. So we are there making sure that we support all these people that cannot be alone. At the same time, we've been supporting things like school kitchens. The First Lady of Ukraine needed help feeding schools. So it's been many people helping, but we support a big major kitchen in Chernihiv in the north and a big kitchen in the south in Kherson. And with those 2 major kitchens, we're able to be feeding multiple schools in a very big area, and it's the most safe way to be doing it. This is the way we keep doing it, Mr. President. But the thing I'm the happiest, Haiti, I fell in love with Haiti. World Central Kitchen was founded in Haiti. I feel I let down Haiti in the way that it's so much more I believe we can all do, and Haiti keeps being this kind of beautiful place with beautiful people. So we've been putting a lot of emphasis in making sure that in this situation in Haiti, things go better. The best way to take care of the future of a country is taking care of the children. So we've been establishing already over the last year, we are right now in 700 schools, feeding children with 700 kitchens, but making sure that all the food is bought from farmers around every one of the schools. In the process of feeding children, we strengthen the local economy. It's no bullshit, we are doing it. Anybody can go Haiti and watch what we are doing with local partners that know what they are doing. And you said when I say we committed 100 million here in CEI, I just heard Hanin Ahmed from Sudan Mutual Aid. My daughter, President Clinton, was in Chad and Sudan, my young daughter, working with World Food Program. And my daughter has been telling me, Daddy, we have to go to Sudan. We need to help Sudan. We have to be in Sudan. And just listening to Hanin here, and that's why it's so important being here in CEI. I'm going to be committing with a fund I have, Longer Tables, $1 million to the initiative of Hanin in Sudan. And we can keep going. But this is what you've been doing for all of us, Mr. President. Call to action. It's okay we clap, but if you leave now and you do nothing until next year and you come here and clap again, please don't come back.
Another clap.
Make things happen. And if you don't know what, look around you. You will have somebody next to you that will show you the way. I don't do anything. I only find people that show me the way. I'm not empowering them. They are the ones empowering me. God bless.
Thank you. So, we've been doing this a long time in many places. And I have seen him set up these operations. And then I've watched politicians screw it up in various places. We fed a lot of people in Haiti, but they didn't take advantage of it. And he had a great feeding station on the border of Venezuela and Colombia, which was wildly successful. But there are still problems there. And that's I want to shift back now to our other panelists. The world is always changing. In the 20 years since we've been doing CGI, it's a very different world on almost every continent. And there are places that are better off, but there are a lot of places that are worse off. So I want to start with you, Madam President. A lot of people thought I was nuts when I got involved in Kosovo, and I told them, I said, you watch, this will be the only place in the modern world where a war has ever been won through our air power, because the Kosovars will never bend, and eventually it will become too expensive for the Serbs to continue the fight, and we'll save more lives doing it this way. So you've already succeeded beyond a lot of people's wildest dreams. But you were the first woman president. You're the youngest president. How are we going to, you look ahead, you look at all the things, look at what's happening to World Health, for example. What have you done, and what do you think other countries should do to make sure that those who are on the right path stay there and get the support they need? Because I know you think about this.
We do every day, and I would say the easiest thing is to try to teach others how to do things, but it's probably not my place to do that, rather than be a hand of support to those who need us right now. And there are plenty of countries that are going through what we had to go through. And, you know, listening to what you had to say earlier, it reminded me of, you know, millions of people around the world who came to our rescue in our time of need. And, you know, today I might be speaking as president, but, you know, years ago I was that child waiting in the line for food, and that child waiting in the line for the support from the WHO. So the children that you're helping today, the women that you're helping today will be sitting here tomorrow. So my first point would be, let's not stop the help. Let's not stop the support for those most in need until the moment when they can get to live in peace. And you said it rightly, the Kosovars would never bend. We would never bend. Because, you know, we were a nation that endured occupation initially for 500 years, and then for another 100 and something years, and not any kind of occupation. Not the kind of occupation that simply tries to push forward their language, the kind of occupation that tries to extinguish you and tries to just destroy you as a nation and deny your existence. But despite of hundreds of years of occupation, we never lost our identity. We never stopped fighting for our right to exist. And the example of the United States of America and other countries around the world standing by Kosovo has turned into such a success story, because today Kosovo is such a strong democracy, is such a resilient nation, as I said, a strong economy, and a country that can deal with challenges, of course with the support of friends, because no nation can make it alone, no matter how big or small, but also a testament that smaller nations too can have an impact. Because we should not be defined by our geography alone, but our impact should be defined by the story that we have to tell. So we continue to share this with the rest of the world without trying to patronize them, because everyone has their own story, and that is different, obviously, from ours. But we try to help them in becoming a resilient democracy, no matter how imperfect the system of democracies is. Becoming a resilient democracy can help you then deal with the rest of the challenges so that we don't go back. There will always be forces that will try to set us back. God knows we have them in our own region. But when you have very strong foundations built on freedom, rule of law, democracy, and human rights, that will help you deal with the challenges. And that's what we try to share with the rest of the world. Because even in becoming a strong economy, our rule of law, democracy, and human rights efforts have helped us. Even when gaining support from the rest of the world, the rule of law, democracy, and human rights have helped us. They have to go hand in hand. And even when we strive to become members of the European Union, our message is that, you know, EU values should go hand in hand with the EU cash, with the EU economic support. If you don't meet those values, if you don't fight for those values, you shouldn't get the economic support that the EU provides. But that is the model that we try to share, as I said, without trying to patronize anyone, because different countries, different regions, different continents face different challenges. But what we've learned is that when you never take your freedoms in general for granted, when you focus on rule of law, democracy, and human rights, economic empowerment and prosperity comes. And third, your strength ultimately lies in your partnerships. You need partners, you need allies, you need friends. And what you stand for and who you stand for in the most difficult times matters a lot. And at the same time, give back. You know, you have to give back. One day, Ukraine will regain its freedom, its total sovereignty, and it will be strong again. It's so important that they give back and support other nations that will be facing such similar conditions. The same way that Kosovo today is supporting Ukraine. Kosovo is supporting nations around the world that are facing the same. And I mean, I wish I didn't have to speak after you because I thought that should have been the conclusion, but I can't stress enough how important it is to say you don't have to be in politics to make a huge change in the world. You don't have to have an important position to do great things like what we've heard. Feeding a child that is in need changes more than just one life. It changes societies. It changes the world in its entirety. So much more than all of the speeches together that we can hold. So thank you for what you do. I can't explain how much it means to those children because I've been one of them. I've been one of them, and so have all the children of course.
Thank you. We've run over time, but I'd love all these stories. I have
a lot of time, like over. I mean, the screen is going to explode.
I want to end with Dr. Tedros, because if you think about it, his story at the end will be either the happiest or the saddest of all, because he became the first African to lead the World Health Organization, a man of unquestioned medical competence and honor and honesty, only to find not only the World Health Organization under assault, but his native land divided by fresh conflict over old divisions that affected his own family. I called him one day just to see how his family was getting on in Ethiopia, and he didn't know. He couldn't get the news. And think how you'd feel if you weren't there, you couldn't find out about your family, you've given your whole life to this cause, and then as soon as it seemed to calm down a little, an existential threat to the World Health Organization emerged in the form of its largest contributor. He's had to deal with that. So how have you kept going, and how do you think that we'll get other young people from Africa, young men and women, to be trained as health workers and go into this work that you have given your life to?
Yeah, and thank you. Of course, the war in Ethiopia pains me. You said it well. I'm myself a war child. I was in Yemen last December 26. And I was there leading a UN mission to negotiate with the Hutus to release our UN colleagues who had been detained by them. And while I was leaving Sana'a, the Sana'a was under attack by Israeli drones. So I survived narrowly. It was close. 2 people in the tower were killed, and our aviation colleague was wounded, was close. And at that time, what came to mind was not what was happening then. The attack or the sound I heard there, very heavy, and everybody was disturbed, and we were running for our lives. But what came to mind is my memories from childhood. The smell, the image, even the sound. This is what we call PTSD. But that made me feel, not just for myself, but I was in Sana'a, and our colleagues pass through this every single day. but I experienced it just for a few minutes and still takes me back in a memory lane. And then if you take Gaza, he was saying it, I can't imagine how the Gazans could live in that situation with bombardments every day. And in my country as well, I am a war child, and when my kids were growing up, there was war, and now there is war. And I lost even closest families, including my uncle. Probably that situation, not only understanding, the impact on me, but understanding what's happening to the rest, like the Gaza or in Sana'a, those who are under conflict, that helps me to understand in the right perspective, and probably encourages me to do more as an individual. So it's not about me, but about what's happening for others, and which is even more serious than what's happening to me. But there was even recently, in 2020, that's when the US withdrawal, the first round came, and there was war in my country, and there was COVID, at the height of COVID. It was a difficult situation. But if there is one thing that I try to see then is, of course, this is the situation, it's beyond my control, but how can I understand the situation and focus on what I can do? And that keeps me going. I think that's the question. But more importantly, I think Jose has done probably more. If you have a mentality of humanity first, and that can give you some balance.
That's good. Thank you.
All right. So, Mr. President, folks are trickling out. That means we need to end this session.
Freaking out, yeah.
Let's give them all a hand. Thank you.